We generally operate under the assumption that we are logical creatures, striving to keep our daily actions perfectly aligned with our knowledge and beliefs. But consider the cigarette smoker. A smoker holds the factual, medical knowledge that inhaling tobacco smoke causes lethal disease. And yet, knowing this, the smoker still lights up. Instead of modifying the behavior to match the medical data, the individual will often work to minimize the risk in their own mind. They argue the research is flawed, they only smoke low-tar brands, or they'll simply quit tomorrow. This mental gymnastics is not a lapse in intelligence. It is a universal psychological defense mechanism known as cognitive dissonance. As we can see here in Leon Festinger's original 1957 text, cognitive dissonance is defined as an antecedent condition which leads to activity oriented towards dissonance reduction. Put simply, it is the acute psychological discomfort that arises when a person's beliefs and behaviors contradict each other. Festinger argued that this discomfort operates almost exactly like a biological drive. Think about physical hunger. When your body needs calories, the physical pain of hunger compels you to seek out food. When your mind holds contradictory ideas, the psychological pain of dissonance compels you to take immediate action to relieve the mental tension. This urge for internal harmony is so intense that an individual will actively distort their perception of objective reality just to make the pain stop. Once the brain registers this psychological tension, it evaluates the magnitude of the pain and attempts to eliminate it by moving down one of three distinct paths. The most logical option is the first path, altering the conflicting behavior so that it aligns with the factual belief. The smoker could simply throw away the pack. However, behavior carries an immense resistance to change. Ingrained habits, physical addictions, or intense social pressures frequently make abandoning the action far too difficult. When the action itself refuses to budge, the mind moves to the second path, altering its own cognition to match the flawed behavior. The mind prefers to discard factual reality rather than endure the tension of an unchangeable action. One mechanism for doing this is to invalidate any new, uncomfortable information by outright refusing to accept it as true. Festinger illustrated this with a cultural example. If a society holds a core belief that all people are inherently good, the aggressive actions of a child create intense dissonance. To protect the core belief, the culture will rationalize the behavior by blaming it on malevolent ghosts possessing the child. Inventing complex fictions provides a highly successful evolutionary cure for psychological tension, keeping the core worldview perfectly intact. The third path is called selective exposure. This defense mechanism kicks into high gear the moment a person makes a difficult, irreversible commitment. Consider the anxiety of signing the paperwork for an expensive new car. The buyer immediately experiences post-decision tension, wondering if they chose the wrong model or paid too much. To alleviate this doubt, the new owner will aggressively hunt down advertisements that praise their specific choice, while actively avoiding reviews of competing vehicles. We unconsciously build informational moats around our decisions, letting in only the data that validates us and blocking the data that doesn't, constructing a conflict-free reality. But what happens when a deeply held belief is unequivocally disproven by the evidence of one's own senses? You can't discard the belief, and you can't ignore the facts. In these extreme cases, the individual relies on the ultimate vehicle for eliminating dissonance: social support. Finding even one other person who suffers from the exact same contradiction neutralizes the psychological pain of being wrong. This desperate need for social validation is the root psychological cause of mass proselytizing. Looking at the theory here, Festinger notes that an individual with a disproven belief will actively initiate communication with others. They will aggressively try to persuade people to join their viewpoint. The behavioral math is brutally simple. If a person can convince enough people to agree with their flawed belief, the internal contradiction ceases to exist. Society's most irrational echo chambers are rarely driven by malice or stupidity. They are the inevitable byproduct of the human mind's relentless mechanical drive to maintain its own internal peace at all costs.